Hello and welcome. I am working on something called the Sisterhood Shuffle. The Sisterhood Shuffle is actually the traveling journal type event, but instead of passing around journals, we are passing around individual pages. It takes the risk of losing a full journal off the table and also is more cost effective because instead of mailing full books, they're somewhere in the neighborhood of $6 to $14, depending on where you're sending them every time, just mailing out envelopes, which or one or two stamps. And so we actually have been able to make the group slightly larger. What I've noticed that the larger the group, the longer a traditional Sisters of the Traveling Journal takes. So, and there's a huge risk of journals going missing. I've been in multiple journal groups at this point, at least two of them, two of the four that I'm in currently, journals went missing and were held hostage for long periods of time, which delayed the entire process significantly. And despite everybody's good intentions and staying on top of communication, first life happens. People have life events that are happening, but also, there's just some bad characters out there. I call it the Rachel effect that essentially will lie, hold the journals long term for no reason, and just a variety of things. And so it was really been stressful to be a part of some of those just because you put in a lot of work and effort into creating a journal in the first place. And then the idea that it may not come back to you was really stressful. So in this case, the pages come to you and you put together a journal. So originally, my plan was to use a binder and actually put the journal pages in the binder. But I think that even though this is a pretty large 2-inch binder, I think that in order to get through the 4 rounds of this sisterhood shuffle process, the binder's not going to be big enough. And then I had this book that I picked up called Blessings of Friends from Mary Inglebrecht. So I have taken the book apart because I was going to use some of the graphics in my junk journals, but then I got to looking at this cover and I thought that would be really cute kind of to go with the theme of the sisterhood shuffle. So I added here a canvas patch to the front that shows the Sisterhood Shuffle logo, and that's good to go. I also liked the interior graphics of this Mary Engelbrecht's book, which was super cute. So now it's how do I put these in here? So our original size was 5x7 or an 8.5x11 folded, and if you'll notice, it's significantly different than the book. Now, I could go search for a book that is smaller in size, which I'm not going to do because I do want to use this particular cover. I need to figure out now how to incorporate the pages into the book. Some of the pages came over and and every one of them is beautiful and different, right? Some of them came over as, all 4 sides were decorated and things of that nature. Some of them, only 2 sides were decorated, which was fun. And then others are the smaller single size. I have one that has this really unique fold out, which is great. Small pieces are wonderful. And then some that are just literally, double-sided smaller pieces. So it's a kind of a variety of things have shown up. And now how do I combine all of these into a cohesive book, which is what we're going to do today. So I came up with an idea. One, I was worried that the book is going to actually be really thick because this is only half, I think 10 of the 20 people that are in my group. Plus, then we also have to make the big fold out quilt. So we did quilt blocks. So we have quilt blocks that came from everybody, and we have to incorporate those into the Sisterhood journal as well. So this is about a 1/2 inch if I really squish it down. So if each round is going to have about an inch worth of paper, then I need to figure out how to incorporate these in here. And I thought that, again, because my book is slightly larger, if I offset some of these in a little, different pattern, you know what I mean? So that might help with the squish factor of this particular process. So, and then there's a lot of loose materials that people sent as well, stickers and things like that I would like to figure out how to incorporate into the journal also. And so what I came up with is to do, obviously, an internal hidden spine. But how do you do that when all of the different pages are different sizes? So I came up with an idea of actually taking and sewing an internal short set of signatures in here that I can then attach these to. So essentially this one would be attached to this page in some way, shape, or form. This one gets attached to this page, some way, shape, or form. And then I can stagger where they also sit and how deep each one of these pages are. So this becomes kind of a way to attach them actually to the spine. So in order to, I think this book is going to get really thick by the time we get through 4 rounds of this. I'm going to plan for the book being 4 inches thick because 1 inch per round, essentially, of paper. So if I squish these down and I stagger them slightly, I can get these into, I think, an inch. So what I've taken is knowing that I have 20 potential things coming, I need 20 sheets of paper. I folded these long way, one, because I don't need them to be the full length or width of the book. And I have 5 sheets in each one of these signatures, and I'm going to do 2 signatures per inch, which should give me then enough of these internal locking pages to hold in all of these journal things into the spine and make it kind of something a little staggered pages and maybe a little bit more visually interesting. I don't know. We'll see if this works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. It is what it is. I could always take them out and put them back in binders as well. So what I'm starting with, because, okay, so I've cut open my book, right? I still need to trim this edge. What I'll end up doing is covering the outside with a big piece of lace or something that will cover the outside. So I'm not too worried about the fact that this is a little ragged. I will, of course, trim it down as smooth as I possibly can get it. But then I need to build the spine structure because it needs to have something to hold on to. I like to use this packaging board that comes in the mail with mailers and things like that because it is flexible but also strong. And so again, I said my signature is going to be at least 4 inches wide is what I'm going to plan for my spine to be. And then from there, then we'll figure out what we need to do. So I've just gone through my stock of flexible cardstocky chipboard pieces and found a piece that will work. And so I'm just going to trim it down and get my spine ready to go. So just like any other hidden spine, so I like to hide as much as I possibly can. Don't necessarily like to see all the strings sitting out, but you can obviously, it would be relatively easy to do that. I came up with this creating these locking signatures or attachment signatures that are actually attached to the paper is probably going to be the better bet. And then I can attach these pages with washi or glue them on or whatever the case may be. And you can do, I just went through my stock and found, some lighter weight paper because again, I don't want to cause a lot of bulk because this page is going to create enough bulk and I didn't want to add to that. So these are just regular like colored, essentially copy paper, right, that I'm going to insert this in with. But you could use any kind of scrapbook paper. It might be kind of cool to do this at different intervals with smaller sheets or find something that corresponds. And this would be a great way to use up some of that scrapbook paper that you have that maybe you want to get rid of, because you could do this with smaller chunks and attach them in a variety of different ways. Anyway, so I'm going to get to work setting this up. I do want to cover this outer, what's going to be visible, with something. I had originally printed on canvas, actually, a gingham print. Obviously, it's not the right size, so I'll have to think on that and maybe print another version. But I thought this would be cute with this, if that's what showed. So I'll figure out, or you could even go in here with paper and cover that with paper. So I'm going to go through my stock and find something that kind of goes with the individual, the cover, some sort of paper or something that goes with the cover that I can cover this internal. So when I cover this, I want it to be slightly larger than the actual piece. One, because I want to fold it over and make the small ends nice and neat, but also I want it to be slightly larger than this because what ends up happening is I'm going to have my cover here and I'm going to have my spine here, and I actually want my internal page to come up past my cover so I can glue it into the cover, making the book. So then the spine is attached to the front cover through an extra piece of paper, and then on the outside, then I will cover the whole thing, which kind of locks everything in together. Does that make sense? Hopefully it makes sense. Anyway, so let me go through my stash and see if I can't find some 12 by 12 paper or something that I like that kind of will go with this particular theme. Okay, I dug through my stash and I just found a piece of 12 by 12 cardstock. I like this one because it's got a little bit of gold glint to it, which was super fun. And so what I'm going to do is I'm now going to cover this particular piece of paper. And again, the goal here is it doesn't matter which side this is, but I'll do the white side just in case some of it shows. I want at least probably 2 inches on either side of this. And I just need about a 1/2 inch because we're going to fold this up on either side. So this works out great. So our cardstock is 4 inches. So I need a solid 2 inches essentially down this side. And we have our 1, 2, 3, 4 inches. And you can make this wider. So let's say on the front, I want to include a pocket, but I don't necessarily. So this is going to be the back. This will be I think this is one directional. Yeah. Multi-directional. And then let's say on the front, I want to actually create a pocket to be able to stuff something into. So maybe I make my front piece a little bit larger, and instead I'm going to fold it over so it's double width to give it a little bit more strength, which I think is fun. Okay. And then so let's do that first. I'm going to fold this over. Well, actually that waste paper, good. Let's make this a little bit thicker because this is going to essentially be folded in like this, right? So having a little bit thicker paper, I just wonder if I want to waste, because you won't be able to see that anyway. I'm going to cut that off. Okay. I'm going to cut it off so that way I don't waste paper. I'm too lazy to go grab my paper cutter, but if you can't cut a straight line, go grab your paper cutter. Okay. So essentially, here we go. And then we're going to take this. We're going to kind of line this up central. Obviously, let's cut off because this is perforated anyway, it'll just fall off. I don't need it. And then we're going to grab our bookbinder's glue or something that's going to dry clear and not bubble up your paper. I think we'll just use our glue. I'm going to come in here and I want to be pretty liberal with my glue because I don't want this paper to come off, but I also don't want it to end up bubbling. So I'm going to spread this out just to make sure that I don't end up getting those little wrinklies, or less likely to get the little wrinklies than if you didn't spread it out. Okay, so we're going to drop that face down on our line here and make it about as central as you can. Because again, we're going to fold this up. So that's good. And on there. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to fold up the bottom, get that as tight as humanly possible, and just pull that in. So I just use my finger because I don't know where my fold folder is. Anyway, so I'm going to glue the end up. I'm not going to glue my sides yet because I want to make sure that when I fold it, it doesn't pucker. So right now we're just going to fold the bottom up to the center. Get that good and tight on there. Because again, I want to really get in here, make sure that that's good and tight on there. Anyway, find my bone folder. It's around here somewhere. Anyway, next, I'm going to fold up this end. Get in here with my fingernail. Just bone folder. And make sure that this is good and tight in here. And really brayer that down as much as humanly possible because we want it to be good and crisp. The next thing we're going to do is fold up our sides. So because they're not going to be folded in, we're not going to glue them because they're actually going to fold out and stick to the book itself or the covers. So one of these little wings will stick to the front cover and one of the little wings will stick to the back cover. But I want to make sure that it's good and crisply set up here. Okay, so I'm going to add a little bit of glue to kind of hold these down now that they're kind of folded in. I have found that paper moves slightly and can buckle. And believe it or not, it will stretch slightly. So that's why I did not glue it down before I stretched it. Somebody is probably going to say it doesn't stretch, but no. I keep having issues with the paper buckling after I fold it, so you can't tell me that there's not something there. Anyway, and it has memory, right? Okay, so here is our internal, and now I want to figure out how to mark. Okay, we know where our edge is, right? On here. And we're looking at the front, which is kind of why folding it was helpful. Okay, fold it back open, and we want to figure out now where our sewed areas need to go. And so I was going to do everything as one big signature, so then we would have 4 signatures, which you can do. I think would have been perfectly fine. I just think it's going to get really squishy. And I like to spread things out a little bit so that way as it has room to kind of expand without buckling. Does that make sense? So I prefer multiple smaller signatures, and we need 5 total pages. Okay, so we've got 5 pages. So we're just splitting it basically 5 pages and 5 pages. And so every inch we're going to put in 2 signatures. So I'm doing this from the side that no one's ever going to see. So I've got 4 inches. I'm going to figure out where our signatures need to be. I know that the signature needs to live within the inch, right? And you don't want your signatures, you want your signatures to be evenly spaced within that inch, and I need to put 2 of them in. So if you go to a 1/4 inch and put your signature in, and you go to a 3/4 inch, that is going to make them evenly spaced. So every inch, you're going to mark it at 1/4 and 3/4. So essentially, I am 1/4, 3/4. Going to end up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 signature being sewn into the book. I'm starting with pink, white, and purple because that's what I had. Next month, the July, August timeframe, I might change my colors up to match because I obviously, like in the fall, I want fall colors. But this could be anything, just like a lighter weight paper is probably better, I think. Okay, so then let me mark where these are going to be down here. And then I need to figure out exactly where I want these because I'm going to do the 3. I find that the 3 stitch, well, we could do 2 because they're going to be glued in, and just leave them at that. Because again, this is going to be hidden. You won't ever see any of this. Okay. Then I'm going to go grab my awl and poke holes in. Okay. I grab my awl. I use a thick piece of cardboard underneath this when I go to jab things through so I don't puncture anything. If you don't have an awl, you can use a needle, like a big needle if you've got one. I find that awl is helpful because it graduates and gets bigger. So if you need the spot to be bigger, and I just jam it through the hole, and then I wiggle that around a little bit, and then we'll go back through the other side just to kind of push that hole back into the other direction, and make sure that it's good and secure. So essentially, I'm just going to go through here, and everywhere where I marked, I am going to put a hole. Now, the other thing that you could do is you could sew your signatures in. It takes a little bit more coordination to do that, but you could absolutely sew them on a sewing machine if it's not very thick. So that's an option too. I'm just worried that this cardstock or the chipboard is too thick to do that on this one, which is why I am going through and doing this with the awl and gonna use thread or whatever. Okay, so now that I have it punched from one side, now I'm just gonna go back through and squish my holes from the good side because it's just gonna help to kind of flatten those holes. So now I can flatten this down a little bit with my finger just to make sure the paper doesn't stick up too far. Okay. So I'm just going to do the 2 holes. No rhyme or reason to the location, but normally when I'm like being really picky about it, I will, do an inch or so from one side, an inch or so from the bottom side, and then somewhere in the middle. I'm going to be lazy and only do 2 holes this time just because I think it'll be easier. And then the next thing I want to do is figure out, okay, my signatures, I need to cut a little bit shorter because they are too long. So I've got to take about 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch off that. And then I need to figure out where those holes line up on my signatures so that I can put a hole through all of the layers of paper. So I'm going to come in here and take off some chunks of paper. And again, I'm going to be slightly lazy and cut this all at once just because definitely, if you don't trust yourself to do this, I am going to take off 3/4 of an inch off this side. If you don't trust yourself to do this, I wasn't super precious with how I folded the paper either. So I'm just going to go in here and trim this off with my scissors. Okay. All right. So then, because now I found where my holes are, I am going to actually take this and fold it the other direction, all as one piece, right? And then I am going to jab a hole through all the layers of the paper, and you can reinforce these if you feel necessary to do that. That's done. And then the other chunk, those are ready to go. So in order to sew the signatures in, you have to sew them in from this side. So essentially here. I use waxed thread, although I have also used embroidery floss, works great. Thread, probably too thin, but embroidery floss works wonders. The wax thread just helps it because it really locks itself in. And I usually go at least 2 times the width of the length of the spine in order to make this work. And then the other thing that you're going to need if you're using thread is a big fat and bookbinder's needle, which just has a big giant hole in the end that allows you to get this big, what is very thick thread through here. So, all right. So I'm going to go down through the top and I'm going to go into oops, I need to flip this around. My front is the one that has the longer pocket. So I'm going to put this into my first hole. Actually, I'm going to go up from the bottom because I'm going to hide my string. So I'm going to go up from the bottom. If you wanted to tie your strings so you could see them, go down from the top, it's fine. And then essentially I'm going to make it real simple on myself. And then I'm just going to flip it over and then I'm going to tie this off. The wax thread also helps to kind of lock things in a little bit better. I've noticed that the wax thread, I can get a pretty tight knot, and it's because it's wax, that's not coming undone without a lot of effort. Anyway, put an extra set of fingers here. We want that to be pretty tight and then pull it. And I always do a double, just regular knot, and then trim these off. Now, if you did it from the front, you would be able to see these strings hanging down, which if you made your strings longer, you could put little charms and things on them or whatever the case may be. So that is an option too if you want the charms, the stuff on the inside. Anyway, so this is just now holding that signature in place in the book. Okay, and I just essentially cut those off. Okay, so now we can go in with our next one. Same way, about 2 times the length up from the bottom, because again, I'm hiding. I'm going to go to the second hole. I'm just going to go to the second hole, come up, turn my signature around, come up through my second hole, up through here. Oops, don't pull your thread all the way through, because that would be bad. Go down through my second hole, find my second hole in the bottom. Flip her over. We are good to go here. Okay, and we'll tie this off. It doesn't have to be super complicated. These are going to be hidden on the inside of the spine. So again, there's my second set of signatures. We'll go in there. And then I just need to go find the paper that I want to put on the rest of these. So we have a summer, fall, and winter. So I am actually going to theme my papers to kind of go with those themes. So let me go look for the next ones. Actually, the next one, the theme of that particular is, I might find, because we're doing an around the world as the next theme for July, August. And so maybe I'll use map pages. I think that would be fun. So let me go locate those. So this is fun. I found an entire thing of map paper that I have. And so a book of like fake map, or well, they're real maps, but it's like scrapbook paper, but in big giant sheets. So I'm going to cut it down in order to make the signatures. Okay, so those are done. And then I have one. So we have too many. But that's okay. I'll just put them in there as we use them for 6 and 6. That aside, and again, we need to poke our holes. Now we're going to go in with string again, go a little bit longer on this one and put some charms on this one. We talked about putting the charms on there, but let's see how that works out. We can always cut it off if we don't end up liking it, but it might be kind of fun to throw some charms on there. So if you're going to do that, then your charms you're going to start from the inside. And because I want, then find your next hole through, and I want to hold on to my string so I don't lose it. Down through the next hole, line up your papers. All right, and on this, since I want my charms, I want some charms on here. The question is, where do I put the thing? So I don't want a ton of. You can really put your string wherever, but you want to line it up so that if you put your string, you're not up at the top, that you have plenty of room at the bottom. It goes past the bottom. You want your charms to hang off the bottom. Anyway, I don't know if I'm going to do that, but that is an option. And I'm just going to hold that with my finger so it doesn't come undone and pull it. So now this will hang down long enough, and we can adjust where it sits if you want it to hang down longer, or you need, some more space. All right, there's number 2, the third signature. Now we're going to put the 4th signature in. Now the next set is going to be a fall. I believe we're doing a recipe exchange and all of that jazz for fall. So I want to go find some fall papers and then probably some Christmas papers, which should be fun. Now, before we get too much further, just to test this out and see, because it's not absolutely ridiculous, I'm going to look at how my pages are going to get attached. So I'm going to leave the first page because I want to add kind of like an intro on what this is. And then essentially what I want to figure out is how to attach this to this page. Now, she doesn't have anything on the back here, which is kind of nice. Maybe I fold these over, maybe I cut them down. I definitely don't think I need it this long, obviously, but I'm going to attach this to here utilizing, I think I'm just going to glue this one on the back because she doesn't have anything in the way. You could use washi to attach them or whatever the case may be. So for this one, I do not need it this long. So I am going to trim it off. I'm also going to trim the height down because I do not need it that tall. I'm staggering my pages from top to bottom. So we'll see how well this works out. So essentially, I'm going to be trimming this off. Will this work? Is the question. It becomes part of the book at that point. And I'm stuck. Hold this in for a second. Attach this with a paper clip. Where did my paper clips go? This was some paper clips first. See? I like this. I commit to sewing this in here because it could be completely shitty. Let's paper clip this on just to see how we like it. Yeah. So that would be the first one. I can decorate that page. The next piece, because she has done it this way, I think what I'm going to do with this one is because it's blank on this side is see if I can find one of the ladies who did a single-sided. Is there anyone that did a single-sided deal? I'm making a mess of my whole pile here. I don't know that anybody did a single-sided one. I do not think so. I think that one might be. Okay. That was coming up her here. Okay. She sent a whole bunch of really cute stuff with hers. Okay. So this was Crystal's, and Crystal did a single-sided one, which is fun. So I might back Crystal's on here, and then you open up and you see Jennifer. And Jennifer's other side is blank. All right, so that's cool. So again, I'm going to fold this in half because I don't need that width. So I would attach this one. Essentially attach it like so. But I'm staggering. I think I'm going to put this one at the top of the list area just to stagger these a bit. Just paper clipping these in so I can see what this is going to look like. So we have page 1. We open it up, they stagger. The other thing I want to check and see is if, okay, so I would save this for if another piece comes that is single-sided. So then I will come in here with Jenny's double-sided. So I'm going to, again, stagger this anyway. I won't end up covering up Jenny's whole thing here. The other thing that we can do is with this is do a locking mechanism, which I'll show you how to do that. So I might end up doing a locking mechanism because I don't want to cover up her front or back on this one. And so I might end up doing a locking mechanism where in the center. And I will show you that. But for now, let's just stuff this on here. Essentially, this paper is going to come up through the center of her page and lock her page onto the piece, which is fun, which I might consider doing with all of these, depending on how this works. Okay. So then the next person is going to be, this is cute. She sent us these little books, which is so much fun to remember whose stuff came with what. So this was all, put this in here so I don't lose it. I'm trying to keep all this stuff together that came with each one. So this one is from, who was this? Lisa. So Lisa sent this one, and she sent this really cute doodle book, which is super cute. I don't know that I'm going to put the doodle book in here, but this is another one that could be single-sided. I could take this and add it to her front as a fallover. So I might add her to here or make it a flip out. So that's another option. So Lisa's, since she is double-sided and I have this blank page, maybe we put Lisa's on here with a little bit of washi and it becomes a flip out, which is also super fun. So I'm going to do that. And I'm going to, maybe we even do an internal pocket to put her little doodle book, which is fun. Okay, so let's just stick that there together. Okay, so we had this one, and the next one is the one from, who is this from? This one was from Millie, which is super cute. And then Millie's, let's see, we did this one centered. I'm going to do this one at the top. Really, I'm just coming in here, putting the paper clips on here to see how this looks as I flip through it. Obviously, I will arrange this so the graphics don't cover over every body stuff. I think this one went with hers. Love that she has, okay, so this is another one that I have a proponent for a flip out as well, or flip up, but probably flip out. So let me see if I can find somebody who has, so here's another one that's blank on the back side. So I would use this one. This one's super cute. We'll put this one at the bottom. So arrange this like so. I think this is gonna work. I think this is a good idea. I just wanted to see if it would function. Okay. And because again, I have a blank backside, I would put this one from Laura Jane. Laura Jane's on here as a back and a flip out. So again, we have an extra interactive element here along with all of this stuff. So that is super fun. Okay. So then this would open up essentially, and this would be another person's information. We'll save this. Although, let's see, that one's at the bottom. And I want to do this one at the top. Super cute. So she's just got kind of a simple front and back there. Naomi. Everybody was, it's amazing to see just all of the different like take, everybody's different take on how to do an about me page. It was very interesting. Just the variety of stuff that came from everyone. Okay. So that one's in there. And then the final one I have here, which is great, is on this particular one, is I have June's, which is again simple on the back, which makes it great because I can do another single-sided one on there. And then I'm just going to make hers down at the bottom, just holds these in like so for now. And hers has a bunch of flip outs and all of that jazz. So essentially, my book is going to be sitting like so, right? And then we'll have open, open. Then the next person's stuff, which will open. Oh no, that one is the back to front. So that was a single-sided one. So that's cute. Then we have Jennifer's opens. Then we have the next one is Lisa's is on the back of Jennifer's. Then we have Ohio, Jenny K from Ohio, which she had. Hers is multifaceted here. So that's cool. I'm going to do a locking mechanism on the inside so that I don't cover up her stuff. Then we have this one from, who is this from? Millie, right? So hers is going to be probably another locking mechanism so I don't cover up. Then we have Laura's, which is double-sided there as well. So I'm going to make Laura's a flip out so you can see Laura's stuff by adding a little washi on the end of there. And then this one opens, which is a super cool Alice in Wonderland themed one. I have space to put another blank one here, or maybe I even take Naomi's and I put it here. It would be fun. And then this one would be attached through a locking mechanism or it can be attached on the back because this is blank. So that is the start of my sisterhood journal. I think this is going to be super chunky. Well, I mean, right now I have the paper clips on there, so it feels chunkier, but way cool. Way to kind of combine all of these together in a book rather than, so this is now all going to go into the book, essentially be sandwiched into the book, right? So my book will have a 4-inch spine and then we'll have the cover on the top and you'll open it up and it will have all of these beautiful signatures on the inside. So this is going to be epically fun, I think. But hopefully that helps you kind of decide how you want to build a sisterhood journal book out of a book rather than out of a binder. Make one of your own. Move this down. And if you don't have a book that's the exact right size, it's okay. Because like I said, I'm going to stagger mine and hopefully it just makes it a little bit more interesting maybe because these stagger and they're a little bit, all over the place. So, and I'm hoping that by staggering the pages, it'll also keep the chunky factor down because it changes where the squish capabilities are. So I will finish adding to my little pieces here. And then real quick, for my sisterhood quilt, I'm actually going to do a big page utilizing a giant piece of paper that will fold out and enable me to make like a full pull, basically I will pull out a giant quilt out of this first one. The same way with my map. So on the round 2, we're doing, it's an around the world theme. And so I have a map with the hot air balloons. So I'm going to make a huge fold out map to go with that as well, which I think is going to be super fun all in all. So yeah, hopefully that helps you to build your own book and we'll see what it looks like in the end. Okay, I'm going to get started on actually affixing these because I think this is going to work and I definitely want to go forward with this. So I just cut off the excess of this first one because I want this to be a relatively small attachment. And I'm going to pull the rest of these, but keep them in the order that I decided on. And lay them down on my paper here in the order that I decided they should live. Build it front to back. Again, I don't need the width of these pieces. So I am going to end up cutting them down because again, I don't want to cover over
the vast majority. Okay, so there's my step. I don't want to cover over too much of this, right? So I'm going to wait, these out of the way here. So not in my way. Okay, so the first one, I need to figure out how I want to attach it. Do I want to cut this down? Do I want this doubled over to be a little bit thicker? The paper is really thin, all of that. So I think I'm okay with covering over because, again, this is going to essentially hide a chunk of this first one. The first couple of pages at the front and the back are probably going to be the weakest. So making sure that I have, a decently thick piece of paper. You could also keep it long and make this into a pocket that you could stuff somebody's stuff into. So that would be an option too. And I didn't think about that just now after I cut everything off. So we are just going to essentially glue this down. I am skipping the first one again so that I can add in kind of my front title page and things like that into the front. And then I think I'm going to put the Sisterhood quote and the interactive things as the very last page to each signature. So I'm just going to come through here and glue this with a glue stick to itself. Glue stick's probably adequate for this particular part of here. So then the question becomes, obviously I don't want to cover over her front. So I am going to attach this to the back. How do I want to attach it? Do I want to attach it with glue? Do I want to attach it with washi? What about this little bitty tab here on top? Do I want to cut this down? These are all decisions that you kind of need to make at this point. So I am going to trim this because I don't want that there. I'm going to just leave it. It's comes through to the other side. And then I'm going to attach this to the back of her journal. And maybe this is a great place to maybe add a word, to add some writing. You could leave it, make it still a pocket, or glue it completely down, add some washi, that kind of thing. So fun times with that. I'm just putting down a little piece of, wait, that's the wrong side. Shoot, I just glued on the wrong side. How am I going to fix this? Put some washi. I just glued it down. Let's go with a pretty pink, some washi tape on here to cover that up. Obviously, if you use prettier paper to begin with, you wouldn't need to do all this, but I didn't. So I'm going to cover this over with a little washi. We'll trim it up here in a minute. And I'm only doing this because I accidentally put glue on it. Otherwise, I would have left it on. That's okay, because that is the wrong side, and I'm going to glue it to the back of hers. Okay, so I'm going to trim that, fix this off. There, any mistakes. Happy little trees. Okay. Trim that off, trim that off. That actually works out really well with the colors of her. Now it looks like it coordinates. Okay, I actually need this side with my scrap paper around here. And glue here. Because I know that I do not want this to come undone, I am going to hit it because I do not trust the glue on its own. Oh, where did my thing away? Scrap that. I just got glue everywhere. Anyway. Okay, I'm going to tuck this in. And I am going to stick this to the back of Cliff's baby bears. Super cute. Awesome. So she is the very first one. I actually think hers is the very first one I received. These are not in any order, but I do think hers was like the very first one I received, which is awesome. So she's first in the lineup here on here. So that is super cute. So the next one was a two-sided one, right? It's a multi-sided because I've got the outside of Jennifer's book is not done, so I can stick other people's to hers, which is super fun. Okay, so let me lay that down. Okay, so I am going to stick down this one from Crystal onto the back of Jennifer's. Here's a good opportunity also to leave a pocket, not glue it all the way down, leave a pocket up at the top or on the side so you can stuff additional things in there. Some of the fun things that maybe somebody writes you a note or leaves you little ephemera or whatever the case may be, and you can add those in. So I do think I'm going to leave a pocket just in case I need it for anything on the back side of hers. So I'm just gonna, run some glue down my center and we're going to add hers to the back up here. Getting lined up, great. Okay, so, again, pre-planning here. This is going to be hidden. This first one is going to be hidden in its entirety on the inside. So I really don't need this double amount. I probably should have just made my paper shorter. But just in case, I am hiding this one in here. And again, because I'm staggering, this was at the bottom. This one's going to go at the top. So I am going to end up sticking this down to the end. And because I can stick it here because I'm going to end up covering it over here in a minute. It's going to be sandwiched in between two pieces. And I want that as tight as humanly possible over. If you don't want to
cut these off, you could fold them in on themselves and make them triangles, which I think is cute too. Let's try that. Okay. And then the next person's information is going to be Lisa's. So what did we decide? We decided on Lisa's because we want to be able to see her front and back. Then we're going to make Lisa's a fold out from Jennifer. So do I want to see the white of Jennifer's, or do I want to use this opportunity to cover the back of Jennifer's with something? I had that extra piece of paper, some extra pieces of paper. So let me go through my scrap stash. See if there's any paper that coordinates with the blue here. This is cool, girl. Unicorns. Oh, I love the crayons. Oh, wait. Look at that. Should take out the right side. It doesn't cover the whole entire thing, but I don't think that's going to be an issue. Because again, I'm just making it so I have something to stick this to. It's not double-sided either. So I want to stick it down before or after I put the washi. I think I'm going to put the washi down first, and then I will put that down. So let me find some washi that will fold well. Let's see. She's got red and blue and kind of a New York Crayon Society. Do we stick with the same? Let's actually stick with the same sheet that we had. Okay, so I'm going to line this up so it's on the inside. I think I ended up cutting this on accident. I think this was attached. Took that out of the way. Okay. I do not trust washi for anything, so I'm just going to run a little bit of glue down the edge of hers, line up where I want it, and a little bit of glue down the edge of the paper where it's going. Just can't expect something in the glue family here. Oh, okay. Oh, I realize you can't see anything I'm doing. Okay, so I just ran some glue down either side because this is just going to stick on here, and then I'm going to fold this open and I'm going to washi both sides. Moving her little thing out of the way here. Again, glue, little bit of glue, little bit of glue. Doesn't have to be a lot. I just don't, washi doesn't stick long term at all. Anyway, okay. So then that is on here. Trim that off. And because I want to cover over this, I'm going to go in here to figure out where we need to. And again, it might be somewhere that I can add some additional writing space. Figure out where I want to cut this off at. The glue is going to dry out if I don't. So I can build a little pocket to add her notebook in here because she sent this little notebook with it. So that might be fun to add in an additional little pocket for the notebook. And I think I'm going to round my corners. I'm just going to sticking this down here. Again, just as in an effort to kind of cover the white that's there, not because it's terrible, just because it adds a little something visual interest. And I love the fact that that's kind of sparkly there. I will come in with my glue stick, glue down the center with the glue stick, but I will come in here with a tiny little bead around my edges, this bad boy down, right? Right enough. It might be fun also to use the extra piece of paper as a belly band to be able to tuck in the doodles and things. She included all kinds of fun stuff in here. Oh, she has this little card. Yeah, that won't work as a belly band. It's not big enough. Let me turn this into a little pocket here. She has a pocket here, but I don't think it's big enough. No, it's not big enough to put the doodles and ideas. Super cute. I am going to grab something to make it. Let's go through our pad of paper. See if there's something that we can. This one's kind of like that. What we want to do here. This is gonna fold out. I could do a half round pocket and we'll just needed to stick in here. I like to use up whatever I can from the pieces that I have. I'm just gonna round this off, even really paying attention to that. I just need something and just enough to kind of tuck this in and hold it. It would probably, based on the thickness of this, be better to do a gusset. A gusset because it's just extra thick. I don't want to run into an issue where it can't bend to keep that in there. Do we want to put a gusset on the second of it? Yep, that should still work. That gives it enough space. And then I think we'll do a flat at the bottom. It to be terribly large. Give it a little bit of space there. Glue. So it has the ability to pop out a little bit. And then the question is, do we put a gusset at the bottom or do we want it to be tight at the bottom? We want it to be tight at the bottom. Test it out and see. To do the sides with the glue.
And then we are going to glue the bottom and we are going to see how this works. Okay, that dry before we stuff this thing back in here, although testing it out so that that works great, I think. Okay, so we just want to make sure that that's good and down, good and adhered to there. Perfect. Gluey fingers. Does anybody else hate gluey fingers? Absolutely. I hate gluey fingers to me. Okay, so we know where that needs to go. So we'll set that aside. Okay, so the next one is the one that we need to make a locking mechanism that comes up through the center of her book. She has a bunch of cute stuff in here, and I did staple this on here just so I had it. I'm not sure where I'm going with all of this. Let me pull this out for right now. And we know this goes with this one. Okay, in order to make a locking mechanism that comes out through the top, like if you don't want to cover over someone's stuff, and you've got too much going on or whatever the case may be, you can make a locking mechanism that comes up through the center of the book, which is this is a great example of how this works. So essentially what we want to do is we actually want to trim the paper. It's attached obviously to the book, right? We only want a certain chunk of this to come up through the slit that we're going to make in this piece. So essentially it's going to come up and then fold out. We don't need the excess. We'll cut this off. I have to remember how I did this before. I did this in my sample version, and then we're going to reinforce this by folding it in half. Scrap paper. I'm going to reinforce this by folding it in half. I don't want it to cover over a ton of her stuff here. Glue stick is right here. Okay. I'm going to glue this down. Okay, in this case, what we're doing is we're actually going to slice a hole here. And then this piece of paper is going to come up through the hole and the wings will fold out, locking it into the paper. Which I know sounds very strange, but it will work essentially. So I am going to trim right here. I don't need any of that. This becomes a T mechanism that will lock into the paper. So it's going to sit a little bit further off of the end here, which is fine. Did this before. Yeah. Okay. So I am going to trim this in a couple of ways. So this is the part we don't need, right? So don't need it. It'll just be hanging out here. Okay. So I'm going to create two locking mechanisms that are essentially, we're going to split this into two, right? And my locking mechanism is in the shape of a T and is going to come through her book, right? So again, we've doubled this over. It's fine. We are going to come through here and trim, and then we are going to trim up to this point and then stop. It's a little fiddly feeling, but it'll work. Trim up to that point and stop on each of the sides. So essentially, you are creating a T. And then what we're going to do is we're going to figure out exactly where our T's, the width of our T's, right? So we are coming to here and here. And on this one, we're coming here to here. Okay. And then we're going to open her book up, her piece up, and then I'm going to slice it between those two marks, just on the edge of her page. Again, this will not interfere. This kind of weird locking mechanism does not interfere with their design at all. So fold that. Okay. So again, let me fold this back and weight it down because I don't need it in my way. Okay. So we have upright. Okay. So her locking mechanism, in order to make this the locking mechanism, you're going to fold the T wings in for right now. And then we're going to open them up after we pass them through the hole. So fold that in and fold that in, right? And then this is very kind of fiddly. We'll clean this other part up after we do it. It's a little messy given the fact that I'm trying to teach you guys how to do this woolen. Then we're going to pass this through. You notice this little nub is going to go through that slit and come up through the book, provided you made the little thing wide enough. All right. Same with the other one. We're going to pass that through. And of course, this is the fiddly part, like it falls out or whatever the case may be, or you didn't make the thing wide enough and now you're struggling to get it through. Anyway, we will fix it. Not ideal, but fixable. Okay. So then that's why my T came in. And hopefully you don't rip their pages in the process, but we can fix it. Now, and then I unfold my T pieces, right? I can unfold my T pieces. This doesn't end up interfering with their stuff at all. And then I can come in here and put a piece of washi. Where'd my washi go? On top of here.
just to make it more decorative than the piece of paper. Let me try to flatten this out. So I'm going to come in here and unify the whole little T structure with a piece of washi. That's going to run the full length. And it'll just look like a little tiny bit of something, right, on the inside of their book. Okay. But it doesn't actually stick to or interfere with any part of her design. So if you have, somebody has a lot of interesting stuff on their, on their sheet or whatever, this is a great way to like really not interfere and stick anything on top of what they have created. And it locks the page in, so it's not going anywhere. So again, I'm just gonna put a little bit of washi over the top of this just to hide all of those cut marks and everything that I just did and all of that jazz. Okay, so that's good and stuck down. This page is not going anywhere. It's now attached to the book, right? You can add a little bit of extra washi there. That might have been complete overkill and unnecessary, but if you don't want to interfere with what someone has created, it's a great way to kind of hide all of that. We could have just stuck it to the back. She didn't have that much going on the backside. Oh wait, that's I think I folded it inside out. That's why. I think this was actually her cover. Anyway, no worries. It's stuck in here. Fold it inside out now. I'm going to cover this over again with a little bit of washi just because I don't want it to look, can't do this backwards. I want it to just look a little finished. So I'm going to flip this around and put a little bit of washi over this area and along here just to give it a little something extra. A little extra reinforcement can't hurt either. Fun times. Here, wiping things on my pants. Anyway, okay. So there's a little bit of washi there. Doesn't interfere with the next page, so that's great. And stuck her thing down. I'm going to add a little bit of washi to this side just to give it a little, again, to cover up the paper and just make it look a little bit more finished. Good time. So Jenny K, I apologize for turning your pages inside out if that was not okay. Okay. So this goes in, again, now our pocket should be dry too, so we can store doodles in here. Doodle page is stuck. This is now stuck. Oops, stuck. Don't stick down to that. Now we can color our shape with a little color page, which is super cute. Okay, so again, because that's extra fiddly. And the reason why the locking page is also helpful, if you have something like this, that it makes it really difficult to stick something to, that could be problematic. So taking a piece up through the center might be helpful because again, it doesn't interfere with their page at all, right? It's just sitting in there, kind of locking that in, but is flexible enough that it can be moved out of the way. On this one, I think I'm going to overlap her stuff just a little bit and just do a thinner washi strip because I think that is perfectly acceptable. So I am going to cut that off, fold this one in half. I'm just going to make it really narrow. This one probably should have done that with the glue. Fold this boy in half. I'm going to make this one really skinny, which is perfectly acceptable as well. And again, these little floppy things are just the thing that is holding the pages into the book. That's the sole purpose of this is to just lock the pages into the book in some way, right? And since this one has less stuff that will interfere on this edge, I am going to stick that front edge to there. And again, this would be an ideal place to, like, if you didn't have much going on in the front, you could have done a pocket with this little flap or whatever the case may be. So let me pull this out of the way again. Put that down. And we're going to stick this one to here. We are going to end up covering up that a little bit, but I think it's okay. And again, I'm staggering my pages bottom, top, bottom, top. So that way I am kind of transferring where the fluff of everything is, the thickness of the book, top and bottom. Okay, so we're going to stick that down. And then I want to see if I have a corresponding. I just keep going with the same washi tape that I've been using. Don't run out before I'm done. Stick that down. Using out. Don't where is that if you don't want this little chunk kind of sitting here, you can cut it back on an angle. It's perfectly fine. Just to kind of trim that back so it doesn't look weird. That kind of thing. On this side, since I don't want to interfere with this, I'm going to try to grab my washi right underneath the edge of her stuff there so I don't end up interfering with her design. And I'm only going to run the washi part of the way right underneath her book. And this is really just to seal it in. I don't want to cover up the sloth here because she's super cute. Just lock that in there to the next page. Okay, and on we go.
I don't remember who this belongs to. Okay. So, pretty sure this belonged to Laura Jane's. Okay, so Laura Jane's is going to be a flip out because we need 2 pages on the back side of this one. So on this one, because again, I have plenty of white space, I'm going to leave my tabby a little bit longer. Alternating the length of the tabs is probably going to help just the structure of the book in and of itself as well. And again, this might have been like I could have just used thicker paper to begin with and I wouldn't have to worry about all this, but I had that paper readily available and I haven't been using it for anything. So it works out. Okay. So I'm going to stick this one down to the inside of that because we're good there. And on the leading edge, we're just going to add a little bit more extra glue. Can figure out what I want to do with this little corner. Do I want to cut it off? Do I want to round it off? Do I want to make it disappear completely? I don't know. Okay, now this is again, do I want it to flip out this way? Do I want it to flip out this way? I can make a decision. I think I like it flipping outward. So, but again, I want to make this page a little bit more sturdy. So again, we're going to come back and grab, and I think because hers is designed as very busy, I'm going to use a much more simple piece of paper just to give it a little bit more sturdiness. I don't want to get glue everywhere. And some glue to the back of this to give it a little bit top to bottom. It's spot on. I just have to turn it on. All right, let's just turn this. I'm sure we're not actually like cutting somebody else's. Okay, so that is beautiful. It gives me a little bit more structure to stick our jeans to. And we're going to, which way do we want Laura Jane's to come outward? I think I'm going to make Laura Jane's stick out a little bit and put the right to. I think I'm going to make Laura Jane's this way backwards so that way I don't cover up her writing. Came very close to the edge. The other option would be to make Laura Jane's a tuck in, but I think I want it to fold open. I think this came from Scoop on Laura Jane. I think so. It's the same ink pen. I think we'll put Laura Jane's little envelope here. Okay. So I'm going to make this stick out a little bit further than the page because I'm going to come in here with a little hinge. You can use a hinge. You can make a hinge out of the washi or you can make a hinge out of since we've been doing washi, I will leave it as washi. And again, figure out where you're going to be. Put a little bead down each end on the paper. And then we're going to try to be real strategic and line this up all at one time. I do not want to cover over Laura Jane's writing. Laura Jane's writing on the inside. So let's figure out. Look at that cute little puppy. I do, however, not trust this to be hinged. So we are going to find some places. I'm just looking for some places that I can add some back hinges that isn't going to like really obstruct the stuff that she put on here in a way that's, covering over things. So just find a couple of locations where I can put a back hinge, but more just to give it a little bit more stability on both sides. So the front is extra stable because it has the full length there. And then we will take Laura Jane's little envelope that she sent, which is super cute. And I actually am going to stick it into this. So it looks like she folded that. That's cool. And I'm going to leave this little pocket also or envelope as a pocket as well. So I'm only going to tape down 3 sides so I could stuff something else in here at some point too if I wanted to. Okay. So we're going to stick that down. It was great. Everybody else had the same kind of idea that I did and sent stickers and, fun stuff, little stashy kind of stuff. Anyway, okay. So that's great. So now I've got that and we have this beautiful spread, which is so cute from Amanda. Love the Alice in Wonderland. Amanda, I want to do an entire Alice in Wonderland themed journal at some point. I will get to it. But I love how you made these little interactive elements. Those are so cute. Okay, so now this is stuck to the back of here. And then we were going to put Naomi's thing here. Naomi doesn't have anything on the back, so I feel comfortable like gluing this down. I love this paper though. I don't know where she got it, but that's cute. And I think I'm just going to glue it. I might make this another pocket so you could tuck something else in here. If you don't want to see all the white, again, you can cover over the white with strips of whatever. So I think this goes really well with nail maze. So I might add some strips of this down just to give it. Do I want to go in with a paper? Do I have some little pieces of paper? The matte papers are going to come in real handy. What if we add this to the outside edge again? Actually, I'm just going to get a full piece. Because again, that worked out really well on the other side. This kind of as a nice juxtaposition to her colors there. Little tiny daisies. Let me spin this around for just a second. I get a contrast of the green and the pink together. Stick that in. We are going to the paper here. And oops, I'm gonna break the page. Here, trim this off. You can't see what I'm doing, but I'm trimming the paper up. Okay, little tiny pieces. Okay, so this is now on the back side of here. I will figure out what I'm, again, doing with this little piece. I may end up folding it over. We might cut it off. I think I'll cut that one off completely because I don't need it. And then we're going to come in here and we are actually going to glue Naomi's. I love this paper. Right up my alley. Stick it down. Give it a little extra support here. A little extra love. We are going to stick this in the middle of here. And this will fold out. So there's Naomi's about me, which is great. And then the final one that I have to collect or that I've received up to this point, which I can tuck in here, is going to be the one from Robin, which Robin did this really cool. This flips up. So there's Robin's photo. And then this flips out. And then this flips out. So she did this whole like flip out and all kinds of fun stuff. So Robin has given me a challenge for how am I going to now attach this? I think because I can easily run a bead. It's blank on the back, so that works out great. I will just stick it in here. I'm going to stick it. And again, I want the extra reinforcement of that centerpiece. So I'm going to leave that at the double thickness that it is right now. And where's my scrap paper? Tuck my scrap paper in here and glue this bad boy down. Gives me a little bit more to glue. Something to tuck that in. Okay. And then we are going to stick Robin's to the top here. So it's figuring out where does this need to stick down to. And we will just hit this again with, and as tight as I can get it to there. Okay. This might be a good spot to put a sticker or something, of that nature. That'll be great. Okay. So there is my first set of pages all in here, attached in. There we go. And this folds out and this comes up, which is fun. And then we have, I love this little chicken. It's so cute. And then we have a little bit different locking mechanism so as not to cover over anything. This is fun to have that one. And that's here with a little thing. And then this opens up. Beautiful. And then we have this one folds out, and then Robin's completely opens up to all kinds of fun stuff. Super fun. Again, and then we keep going with the rest of them that are going to come in the mail. So this will be super fun. I may go ahead and stick my book together so that I'll add in the rest of my signatures, and then I'm going to stick my book together so it's all together and I can work in the actual book itself and how. Normally I'd probably leave it, but I think I am going to put it in the book because I want to be able to see the whole thing put together. Because this is going to go on through December. So I don't want the spine to be floating around without the book. Wait for the rest of them. And, additional pages don't come. I can always take some out or whatever the case may be. And again, my Sisterhood quilt will be attached in here as well. So on that, I'm just going to use a giant piece of paper, giant, like a long piece of paper, and I'm going to fold it up in here. So more to see on that later. Okay, I have my signatures also into the cover. So essentially, this is what it looks like. We have, of course, the back ones will be for the additional rounds of the Sisterhood Shuffle, and we've got things going in from the front to the back. So I've just used a collection of paper that I had on hand. We have the matte pages for the fall. We have some of this like aged vintagey looking paper. And then originally I was going to use cardstock, but I'll be honest with you, when I put the red and green cardstock in here, it was way too thick. And so I decided instead to use some old ledger paper that I had just laying around and cut that up and put it in there. Most of this will be covered up anyway.
because I'm covering most of this up with washi, right? So you're never really gonna see that paper. Um, or it's not the start of the show, so it really won't matter. Okay, so then it's sticking the signatures into the book. And so what we're going to end up doing, let me show all this other stuff out of the way here, is we are going to, okay, here's my cover. Here's the front. And this part here, this flap, this wing, is what is going to get stuck to here. All right. And the reason I do this and I don't have another outside spine here is because I want this book to be able to be flexible. I want it to be able to flex in that spine to have some give. There's plenty of reinforcement on the inside with this, and I may end up covering over this because I want to figure out right now, like, how, because this is going to essentially be here, right? What am I going to put across the outside? Likely, maybe a piece of fabric or something that, so all of this will be hidden under the fabric. So I probably need to go find a piece of fabric or something that I want there, maybe a piece of lace or fabric and lace would be fun, something to cover this over. But I also, I have the ability also to actually stick another piece on the outside to, another Sister Shuffle logo or whatever the case may be. So right now I'm going to go ahead and probably do this a little backwards, but I'm going to go ahead and glue this in to the cover to the outside, and then we'll decide because ultimately this piece will have to come wrap around to cover up this edge area. Probably would have been better to do that first. So let me think it'll be fine. I'm just trying to think if it's going to be a pain given that I've sewn everything in at this point, probably to cover that over, but I think it'll be all right. Anyway, do some things backwards. Normally I would sew the book and all of that and then stick it in. Anyway, yeah. Anyway, so, okay. So the next part is to join this to here and make sure that we're right on the line of where this needs to go in at on the book cover. And unfortunately, it feels like this page is slightly larger than the cover itself, which is weird. I thought I measured pretty spot on. My spine slightly larger, possibly. How do we fix that? Let's taper in our edges. We'll just trim it off. When in doubt, trim it off. Okay. I'm just taper that edge in. We'll taper that edge in. It's going to come just to the edge of here. It'll be perfectly fine because it'll be covered over. Okay. At this point, you can use bookbinder's glue. You can use whatever you got available. Since I already started with the glitter glue, I'm going to keep going with the glitter glue. I will also add a little glue stick in here too, just to make sure that we've got everything good and covered and coated, and then come in here. Normally, I would have done this with bookbinder's glue, but that's all right. Glue dries out. Pokey thing. I have lost thing here on my desk. Just grab a paper clip because, oh wait, there it is. That wasn't intentional. Okay. Making a mess everywhere. You want the glue to go all the way to the edges. Give me plenty of coverage. Okay, let's line her up. Make sure she's as straight as humanly possible before we stick her down. Now, if, again, I forgot, I was going to make this into a pocket. That's okay. We've already stuck it down. At this point, if you wanted this to be a pocket on the front, you would want to go ahead and, not glue that all the way. But that's okay. We're going to end up covering over most of this anyway because I saved all of the. I saw somebody who did a collage. I don't remember which one of the Sisterhood Shuffle people had shown a picture of a collage of all the stamps and things. And so on the envelopes, when the envelopes came in, I cut off all the stamps. And I also cut off all of any stickers that were on the envelopes and things like that. I'm going to do a collage on the inside. Okay, so that side done. So then we flip it around and we are going to stick the back to here. Get all this stuff out of the way. Again, we're going to stick the back to here and just line it up. And again, we are, for whatever reason, too big. And spine is going to be slightly larger sides, which is weird, but thought I measured better. Okay. All right, so then we're gonna again put glue on here. Some glue set up on here. And plenty of this glue on here. Make sure that this goes all the way to the edges. And now we didn't get glue all of the other page. Line her up. Make sure she's as straight gets. And eyeball in something and stick this down to the inside cover. Again, make sure I didn't get glue all over that.
Okay.
We'll let this dry. And again, the reason why I do the flex bind isn't for this exact reason, is that the whole thing will lay flat. So if you think about like once we get everything in here, it's a lot, but it lays pretty darn flat. Now, my book is definitely wider than or deeper than the pages themselves. So pages could go in there sideways. They could, any number of things could go on here. Obviously, selecting a book that was the better size and not like that much larger would have been ideal. But I really liked this cover, so I just went with it. Also, my bigger pages, my fold outs for my interactive can be bigger also. So those will be the full width probably of the depth of the book and will act as like four tabs within the sections, basically, which will be super cute, I think, and helpful. Okay, so then it's just a matter of she's going to sit funny until she's full, essentially, which is fine. And we just need to figure out what we are putting on this spine to cover all of this stuff up. So for now, I'm going to lay her back open so she stays that glue can dry. Forget who sent me this, darn it. And we'll get rid of and clean up all this mess and find some fabric for the outside. And then she is about as good as she's gonna get at the moment, as till more people send in pages and we're getting ready to start the next round. So that'll be fun. I need a whole bunch of scrap paper for myself. Okay, wonderful. Hopefully this helps. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments or in the Sisterhood Shuffle groups.